as long as I breathe.
You will never lose me as long as you stay who you are.
The release of Denis Villeneuve's Dune Part 2 takes the portrayal of the main character, Paul Atreides, in a much darker direction than David Lynch's 1984 adaptation. But which interpretation is more in line with the intentions of the original novel written by Frank Herbert 59 years ago? Join us today on Screen Rant as we examine Dune 2 and answer the question, is Paul Atreides a savior or a tyrant? When Frank Herbert wrote the novel Dune, he centered the epic story on protagonist Paul Atreides. His intention was not to make Paul a hero. In fact, he criticized science fiction's archetypal chosen one narrative. Despite all this, David Lynch's 1984 Dune adaptation paints Paul, portrayed by Kyle MacLachlan, as a triumphant hero with his victory on Arrakis summoning a rainstorm, not a universe-rending holy war.
And how can this be? For he is the Kwisatz Haderach.
Denis Villeneuve, on the other hand, rolled with Herbert's original intent. Paul, now played by Timothée Chalamet, isn't heroic. If anything, he's a tragic figure who employs dubious means to achieve his goals. In Dune 2, after his father is assassinated by House Harkonnen, Paul feels his goals align with those of the Fremen people. Both Paul and the Fremen want to overthrow the Harkonnens, though for different reasons. Paul's mother, Lady Jessica, played by Rebecca Ferguson, manipulates the Fremen using their religious beliefs to paint Paul as a super being, a role he is reluctant to claim, and for good reason. But Paul's reluctance has nothing to do with being heroic. He knows that accepting the role of the Fremen Messiah will kick off a series of unstoppable violent events. To him, liberating Arrakis and avenging his father aren't necessarily worth the bloodshed that will follow. Ultimately, Paul relents, and although he succeeds in freeing Arrakis, his actions are anything but heroic. He betrays his instincts and then uses his clairvoyance to threaten the Fremen, showing his terrifying potential for evil.
Because you lose control. Because I gain it.
This leads to the launch of his foretold Holy War. Eventually, Paul can no longer control or restrain the Fremen desire to conquer the universe in his name. In short, the fallout of liberating Arrakis is a bloody holy war, thus solidifying Paul's tragic villain turn. The devastating note that Dune 2 ends on is a clear warning to be wary of heroes, especially those that attain a godlike status. Thus, Denis Villeneuve's interpretation of Dune is more in line with Frank Herbert's original story. The author explained, "Dune is about showing you the superhero syndrome and your own participation in it. And Dune 2 is very much aware of that intention." That's all for now. Thanks for joining us on Screen Rant, where we will continue to add to great film debates and hope to meet again soon.